In this video, we're going to look at graphing lines, or you may also hear this said as linear equations. I always just think linear, we say line as we say linear. So linear equations is just the graph of a line. All right, now we're going to look at this in terms of when you are given the slope intercept, so slope intercept form of a line, which looks like this: y equals mx plus b. All right, so now this is how your setup will look, but what we want to do is basically go over what does m mean and what does b mean, because they mean two different things. M means slope. You'll also hear that called rise over run. And then B is the actual y-intercept. And a y-intercept is basically a point that is 0 and then whatever that B value is. So like a y-intercept is always going to be on this y-axis, because if you think about it, if 0 is the x-coordinate, then that means on this on this coordinate plane, if 0 is the x-coordinate, that would be here, and then that means we could say 0, 5, 0, 3, 0, negative 2. No matter what we say, that would lie on this line. All right, so now with all that in mind, let's actually look at how we're going to use that to graph this. So the first thing we'll do is we will start with a problem and we'll just break it down. So let's start with y equals negative x plus 5. Now, what we want to do is pick out what is m and then what is b. So m is the slope. Now, m is always going to be the coefficient of x. All right, so when we look at x, we see there's a negative. That essentially just means negative 1 is the slope. And then if you want to write it as rise over run, write it as negative 1 over 1. So you just rewrite the whole number as a fraction. All right, we'll talk about what to do with that in a second, but now let's look for b. So hopefully it's pretty obvious. B is just 5. And that means at 0, 5, that is my y-intercept. So when I actually go to graph this, let's just start with the easiest part, which is b. If b is 5, that means at 0, 5, so 0 would be right here, x equals 0, and then we would go up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 0, 5. That's my start point. Okay, so the y-intercept is always your start. Now, we're going to use our slope to actually graph the second point, and really, the slope's going to give us every other point. So now, once again, remember that we called this rise over run. Now, there's an easy trick to do this, and that is think about the rise portion as going up or down. So rise means go up or down. Now, if your top number is positive, that means you're going to go up. If your top number is negative, that means you're going to go down. So our top number, which if there's a negative in the fraction, just always put it on the top. But if our top number is negative, that means go down that amount. So we're going to go down 1 because this top number is negative 1, so we're going to go down 1. Now, for the run, a good rule of thumb is always just go to the right. So there's only one situation where you ever go to the left, and I'll show you that one. But the easiest way to do this is let your positive and negative tell you up or down, then always go to the right. That way you don't get confused. So we're going to go over to the right, whatever our number is, and our number is 1. So we're going to go down 1 and over 1. All right, then we can keep doing that as much as we want. That's our slope. So our rate of change is literally going to be the same. So we can just continue to say down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. And you don't need that many points. But here's what I want to show you Actually, I'll show you on the next graph. But we can go down as many points as we want. And then all we need, which you may want to do this with a ruler, all we need is a straight line that connects these points. And that is our graph. And you also will probably want to put arrows on the end because technically our graph doesn't really stop. All right, so that's what the graph of that looks like. So let's look at another so we can start getting this down. And as we do more, I'll start showing you more little tricks. Let me get rid of all this. All right, so yeah, as we do more, I'll start showing you some more tricks. That way you can have all those. But now, let's look at another example. Let's say y equals, I want to do a fraction. Let's do 2 over 5x plus 2. All right, so your job is to find the slope and find the y-intercept. So slope is m. Once again, that's always going to be this coefficient in front of x. So that's 2 over 5. And then my whatever's added or subtracted at the end, that's going to be my y-intercept. So 2 is b, which tells me 0, 2 is my first point. So I'm going to go to 0 on the x, up to 2 on the y. So there's my first point. Now, once again, let's go over this. The top number, if it's positive, you're going to go up. Negative means go down. Okay? So the top number is 2, so we're going to go up 2. So we're going to go up 1, 2. Then the bottom number is 5, so once again, you want to always go to the right. So we're going to go to the right 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then here's 5. Now, let me show you the only time you ever want to go to the left. But first of all, we only really need these two lines. So I could go ahead and draw this graph. And it would look something like this. Actually, let me redo that. Mine's a little crooked. Let me redo it like this. If it will actually draw. Could you please draw? Thank you. All right, there we go. Now, watch what will happen. If I want to make another point, watch what happens. So, here's this arrow, this arrow. So let's just say I want to make another point because I've already made this point here. Let's just say I wanted to go up 2 over to the right 5 again. I would go up 2 and then I would go over 1, 2, 3. But you see how I'm going to run off the graph here? Instead of doing that, this is the only situation where you go to the right. You can take everything we just did over here and you can actually reverse it. So now if I want to make a new point, I could go down 5, or actually down 2, and then I could go to the left 5. And watch what will happen. I've already drew this line, but you'll see that when I make my next point, it's still going to be on this line. So watch what happens. So down 1, 2, left 1, 2, 3, 4. And actually, if my line were better, it would look a little better, but it's going to be about right here. If I actually had a straight line, it would be right on top of it, but you still get the idea. What we can do if we're going to run off the graph, that's the only time you ever need to go to the left. So if you're going to run off your graph, just take your slope and reverse the direction that you did everything. So now we started out going up 2, so we go down 2. We started out going right 5, so now we go left 5. And that'll fix running off of the graph. But that's the only time I would go to the left. All right, that's just my advice to you. So let's just do a couple more. So let's say that I have, which this will be an annoying step, but I need to get rid of all this. All right, so let's look at another one. Let's say we want to look at, let's say y equals -1 over 4x plus 3. So see if you can graph this one. So the slope is going to be -1 over 4. B is equal to 3. So my start point as it is at 0, 3. So I'm going to go up to 3, make a point on the y-axis. And then remember, the top number tells you up or down. Since it's negative, we're going to go down 1. Since it's positive on the bottom, which doesn't really matter, I would just always go to the right. So we're going to go right 4. So down 1, right 4. So watch what happens. Down 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's my point. Now, let's say I want to do it again. Down 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. There's another point. Now, let's say I wanted to make more points, but I'm running out of room over here. So what I can do is go back to my start point, which is 0, 3. And now I can just reverse this. I can go up 1 and to the right 4. So up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you notice, all of those lines are still on the exact same path. They're all essentially the exact same. All right, and then we could draw our arrows on the end. You can make your line as big as you want, but that's what our line would look like. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll be finished. So the next one, maybe I'll do one that's just a little bit tricky, just so you can see it. Actually, no, let's keep it straightforward. No, let's do one. So let's say I have y equals, let's just say I say negative 4x. So let's find m and b. M is equal to negative 4. We can also write that as negative 4 over 1. Now, what is b? I don't see b there. It's actually like saying plus 0. So if nothing's written, added, or subtracted at the end, you just assume it's plus 0, so that means 0 is b, which means 0, 0 is the start point. So we just start right at the origin, and then once again we go back to the slope, and we say, okay, this means down 4, this means right 1, so we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. And then we could make, once again, if you want to, you could make another point and just reverse this and go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then go to the left 1. So then that is exactly what our line would look like. So we just need to draw it. And once again, I would probably draw this with a ruler. I'm not right now. I'm just kind of eyeballing it, which is why some of mine don't look too good. All right, so I'll be making some more videos on some other stuff concerning graphs, but that's a good basic video on how we actually graph a line.